can do is win so big that all of them constantly compare themselves to you, and then you'll forget they exist. Success is the only revenge.
You were scared you were gonna fail. You were scared if you started, you never finish it. You didn't want to tell anyone about it. You knew it was there, but you never wanted to embark on it until something hits.
Yes guys, so we are back with another YouTube video. We're back at Invictus today and I'm gonna be taking you through my push day. So this would stereotypically be my Monday push day, but hence we're doing it on a Friday just due to the fact on Monday I train at Apollo. So considering we're here today, I might as well do my usual push day that I would usually do here and essentially just lift it around and do it towards the latter end of the week. I'll take you through, it's going to be quite a raw video, but I'll take you through all the movements and just show you guys what I'm doing to essentially bring up my top line, because ultimately it's a bit shit. But either way, in order to improve it, we've got to get after it. So we're starting things off with a lateral raise, which to be honest, I'll probably always start off a push day with a lateral raise, just due to the fact it's going to warm up my shoulders adequately, gets a lot of blood flow into the side delt. Also, training it at the start of the session gives it a bit more priority over stuff towards the latter end of the session. So I'm starting off with the lateral raise. We've got the Nautilus dual arm here, 3 sets here, last set rest pause, and then we'll go into some pressing work. PCA. Sick. Do you plan on doing PCA finals? Lateral raises wrapped up. Move into our first pressing movement now. So as I was saying to Cam a minute ago, I pretty much just worked my way through all the Nautilus presses, not just because I enjoy them, but also it's just actually how I've got this session programmed. So we'll start off with the flat press, move into the overhead press, and then we'll move into the Gym 80 decline press, which is actually feels very similar to the Gym Echo decline, except it doesn't feel like you're going to tear a pec off when you're in that stretch position. Today's session is my first session using L-carnitine in my pecs. So hopefully get a pretty nasty pump, which is kind of what I need considering I don't have any more non-stim. So I'm kind of relying heavily on that to get a good chest pump today. But it's going to be interesting because my chest is already very, very sore just from the information of pinning it for the first time. But to be honest, that's kind of why I'm utilizing L-carnitine, because if I use it in areas I struggle to connect with, like my lats, my triceps, my biceps, the inflammation there, obviously when you've got inflammation in an area, you'll feel that connection a little bit better just because it's sore. So it allows me to connect a little bit better with those weaker areas, which isn't going to be a bad thing, because obviously mind muscle connection is not everything, but it definitely is important to make sure you are targeting the right or the correct musculature, which for me, especially for my lats for example, is really, really challenging. And we'll do one more. One rep up, 1.25 kilos up to, not too shabby. Yeah, so we've got 3 sets on here. I've recently got into a position where I don't want to say I've been doing too much volume, because I hate the term like junk volume. I think obviously it is a real thing, but I think a lot of people think, oh, more than 2 sets is junk volume. In reality, 3 sets on especially a weaker area when my food's high. I'm getting pretty, I wouldn't say deep into the off season, but I'm obviously getting to the point where everything's in a really sort of good productive spot from a recovery standpoint, and just where food's at, where PEDs are at, for example. I can get away with doing 3 sets on there. I'm not gonna not be able to recover from it. Like, I literally just did a +1 plus load. So again, if you're fussed about doing too much volume, the thing I kind of want you to think about is, when you leave the gym, would you rather have the thought of, oh, I've done a bit too much, maybe I need to do less next time, or oh, I probably could have done a little bit more? Personally, I'd rather the first option than the latter. I'd rather leave the gym and think, oh, I probably did a bit too much today, than, oh, I didn't do enough. But again, everyone's different, and it shows within your physique, to be fair. If you're willing to do a little bit more, work a bit harder, usually you're probably gonna have a bit more results. So guys, a pretty common topic of discussion recently, I'd say over the last couple of years anyway, is should you logbook to logbook or not to logbook? In my opinion, I think 99% of people should logbook or track the majority of their lifts to a degree. So for example, this is my logbook. Well, it's a Google sheet, but essentially it's a logbook, right? And it's important for you to logbook so you have a reference point to the previous session. So essentially you can ensure that you're progressively overloading on ideally a weekly basis or a session to session basis, right? But the thing is, a lot of people, I think, get a bit too caught up in your logbook. At the end of the day, as much as progression is key, for example, what you may find is towards the back end of a diet, when you're looking through the numbers, you're constantly just you're almost obsessing too much over the numbers and trying to beat those numbers. And sometimes you can see form sort of deteriorating because of that. You can see you sort of allowing form to break down, you cheating reps, having progressively worse form in order to allow you to get a progression, when in reality, progressions aren't going to come on a weekly basis, every single set at least. At least not for most people. And if you're allowing the sort of obsession with the logbook to take away from your ability to maximize your stimulus in your training, is it counterproductive? Potentially. I also think sometimes, like, just basing it off how you feel, like, you don't always need to look at a logbook and be like, I need to do this, I need to do that. I think sometimes you can go in, and as long as you have a rough ballpark of like where you sort of did the week prior, or what you sort of did, the week prior, you can kind of go in and sort of aim to beat that anyway, especially like compound movements as well. Like, you should definitely be aiming to progress those on a weekly basis. But like, for example, a lateral raise, I can't remember the last time I actually tracked all 3 of my lateral raise sets on a dumbbell lateral raise, for example, because first of all, it's pretty tedious. All I do is I ensure that over time I'm adding reps and I'm just generally trying to use more and more loads while training hard. And I seem to be progressing them pretty well, but I don't actually track how many reps I did. Mostly because I do sets over 20 reps, so I usually lose count a little bit. But at the same time, like, you don't need to logbook everything. You don't need to be so meticulous with things to the point it takes away from your enjoyment of the process, because if it is taken away from your enjoyment of the process, it's not going to be sustainable. So logbook where appropriate, but don't become obsessed with it. Don't get too emotionally attached to it, because ultimately it probably will take away from your ability to enjoy training, which is the reason I do this, the reason most people do this. It's bodybuilding is a byproduct of their love for training. So yeah, enjoy your training. That's the short sort of message there. I think I might have taken a day or 2 off my life back there, but you got it. That was heavy. Heaviest I've done on this Nautilus overhead press, by quite some margin to be fair. I've done quite a few Nautilus presses, overhead presses at this point, but I think this one, I don't know if it's got a slightly heavier stack, but it feels slightly heavier. Whether it is or not, I don't fucking know. But yeah, I'm pretty chuffed with that to be fair. One thing I really try and do with this press is, especially with this wide grip, to really think about trying to press through my chest almost, as opposed to just pressing, because it's very easy on this press sort of allow your elbows to flare out, which isn't bad if you're trying to hit the delt more so. But what I find is if I place a bit more of a sort of conscious emphasis on trying to keep my elbows just a tiny bit more tucked, they do kind of shoot back, especially towards the end of the set anyway, but I try and keep it a little bit more tucked forward, because I find that I can press through my sort of chest musculature a little bit more, and that means I'm probably just going to get a bit more chest out of this movement as opposed to solely delt. And realistically, I'm going to get a bit of both regardless, because at the end of the day, I'm moving the weight through a plane that is ultimately going to put the shoulder in flexion. But when I tuck my elbows, I just personally prefer it a little bit more from that sort of connection that I just get with my chest and my overall sort of top line. Right now, my overall top line feels lit up, and that's what I'm kind of trying to do here, is target that whole top line. Back down set on here. Not quite as a low repper as that, obviously a 4 rep max right there. In bodybuilding, there's quite often the sort of thought process that everything has to be pretty much black or white, you know. A lot of people like to speak in absolutes, and in reality, nothing has to be done in absolutes really in bodybuilding. Obviously, there's your basic principles: training hard, eating to fuel your goals. So you know if you're in a deficit, if you're in a surplus, whatever. But for the most part, like, there shouldn't really be too many absolutes in bodybuilding. A lot of people speak in absolutes just to make things seem a bit more controversial, to sort of spark your attention. But in reality, there's not really one shoe fits all. And that kind of applies to machines. And the reason I say that is because a lot of machines might not feel good based upon your biomechanics. And for example, this machine feels really good for me. But the issue is I find this a little bit hard to get all the way down when I'm trying to set it up, especially when it gets heavy. So in order to stop that, so I can not compromise where my sort of torso positioning is, I utilize this block to essentially prop up the lever, and therefore the lever is basically propped forward, and it allows me to basically maintain my torso position relative to the machine without necessarily compromising my ability to use this lever to set myself up for the load. So my sort of general point here really is you can make a machine by making a few sort of tweaks. So for example, last time we came here, we hopped on the hack squat, and because I kept bottoming it out, we used some blocks on the second set to prop up the whole machine so I didn't bottom it out. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at here, is you can quite easily manipulate how a machine kind of works to a degree in order to make it more so fit your biomechanics and the way you move. You don't have to do things exactly how the machine sort of almost tells you to, if you know what I mean. Oh! Oh! progressions are flying this session, which is things you'd love to see. To be honest, like, I don't want to say it's easy when you're in the off season, but when you're dieting, obviously you actually have to, I don't want to say you have to fight for progressions, because you have to even when you're in a gaining phase, but you kind of don't have to fight as hard in a way. Like, everything just feels easier. And I'm not saying shit is easy, because like that last rep, for example, it wasn't easy, but like the progressions just come a lot easier. And I'm sure if a lot of you have spent time pushing up, when it comes to food, when it comes to just driving up performance in the gym, you'll probably notice the exact same thing. Dumbbell preacher curls. To be honest, probably one of the scariest movements there is. I don't know how many of you have seen that like OG video of that guy doing an easy bar on the preacher curl. Both his biceps tear. I always think about that every time I do a free weight bicep curl. However, a single arm or a dumbbell bicep curl has a really, really nice ascending resistance profile. And as nerdy as it sounds, it feels really, really fucking good. So the two things I keep in mind when I do this are, first of all, don't be an idiot with loading. The last thing I want is to tear a bicep. And the second thing is just making sure I am standardizing form as good as I can. As much as realistically you can't control when shit goes wrong, you can make sure you try and mitigate it to the best of your means. And having shit form on something like single arm preacher curl, probably not the best idea. But again, really, really good movement. Not just from a resistance profile, nerdy perspective, but also just in the way I connect with my bicep on this. You want to think about tucking your armpit into the pad, obviously keeping your sort of humerus or your upper arm locked into the pad to a degree, and literally just thinking about curling upwards while keeping the joints aligned with one another. And that's that. Quite a common misconception is that you have to do a top set back off. You don't. You can do the same set, multiple sets in a row. I actually really like it. Obviously, you'll probably see a bit of a drop off in the reps, but if you can uphold that quality going into that second set with the same load, sound, go for it. Like, don't feel so married to a top set and a back off. Likewise, you can do a back off set before doing a top set. You can do a higher rep set and go heavier if you feel good, or maybe you undershoot the rep range and you end up exceeding reps massively. You can always go heavier for the second set, because then the following rotation, when you go in the next week, you're going to be giving yourself a better chance at progressing if you do that top set first anyway. So yeah, don't feel so married to doing a top set back off set first. It's not the only approach to things at all. There's plenty of ways to do things. Significant discrepancy there between my two arms, which is not ideal, but that's why we did the assisted reps to match reps.
I got tequila, she was sipping on the white wine. She looks better than when I see her on the timeline. That's why the haters are hating on the sideline. When I see him in person, it's all love though. Spider-Man like, yo, what gone done no? Something like Quavo, the treat me like the honcho. She knows the city is mine, where you wanna go? When I walk in the room, please don't get it twisted. No briefcase, but you know I mean business. Every gal of mine, I'ma do it like Chip did. Tonight's a movie, I'm feeling like Idris. I gotta keep it a bucket on my children are listening. I know the system's rigged, but your daddy ain't bitching.
Nice little micro load progression there. I'm not one to micro load, but this gym have these little plates. They also have a 0.5 and 0.25, I believe. I'm not natty enough to bother doing 0.25 ones, but I'll use a 1 kilo like micro load plate, because especially like the jumps on here, they're like 7 kilos. So, you know, like I added this match straps with an extra kilo. Sound. It's a nice little progression, but yeah, for the most part, I'm too lazy to use 0.25. Plus, it also just takes the fun out of it for me. Like, it's too much effort to track that sort of those small increments. So I'll use these, but I won't use anything smaller than that.
They want a reaction, I'm giving them silence. Told my brother, leave your phones at home when you're giving them violence. That's just a little guidance. It's 2 in the morning, I'm up studying science. Them boy that sleep like Bible. I come alive in the night time. Tequila, she was sipping on the white wine. She looks better than when I see her on the timeline. That's why the haters are hating on the sideline. When I see him in person, it's all love though. Dap him up like, yo, walk on, done no. Something like Quavo, but they treat me like the honcho. She knows the city is mine. When you wanna go?
Is it videoing? Yeah. So, Cam's just been saying this looks like an awful fly, and I'm going to try to get him to go on it in a minute, but as bad as it does look bad for a fly, but honestly it feels pretty good. At least for me, like I feel like just by the way I can sort of manipulate my torso, kind of make it into a bit of a decline pec fly, and it feels good. Feels really nice, but again, everyone's a bit different. So yeah, that's pretty much the session wrapped up, to be fair. I'll go film like an outro upstairs in a minute, but only one set on there just to sort of finish off the chest. I'm going to go do some posing now somewhere where it's not too busy, where there's still good lighting. And yeah, give you a bit of a physique update. Currently sat at like 93, 94 kilos now. Yeah, slowly closing in on 100, which is pretty cool. I think I will probably exceed 100, to be honest, quite easily now, which is cool. But at the same time, like I also don't want to be a complete fat mess when I get to 100 kilos, which I don't think I will be. Maybe at 105, but again, like kind of with where the rate, like we need to, like based upon the timeline, if I'm prepping next year, I do have to be not super aggressive with this push-up, but I can probably afford to be, just due to the fact it's my first exposure to PEDs, my first proper push-up with PEDs. I can probably get away with being a bit more aggressive, quote unquote, but see how things go, and I'll show you guys the physique in a second. So guys, that is the end of today's push video, rawish push video. obviously, it's been a pretty good session, to be fair. Like, progressions have been pretty silly, as I kind of expect at this point. Obviously, going forward, we're going to continue obviously pushing up. Over the next few weeks, I've got quite a lot going on in regards to, there's a few shows, obviously, you've got PCA finals, the PCA Naturals finals as well, a few different like expos and things like that. But either way, it's looking pretty exciting. I am then going to Thailand at the back end of next month, which I'll be there for six weeks. Still going to be doing most of the shit I usually do. Obviously, food will probably be a bit more all over the place, but relative to, so I was just speaking to Cam about how high my food gets, and honestly, I think I'll probably more so struggle to hold on to where I'm currently at bodyweight wise, as opposed to sort of coming back like 5 kilos heavier. But you never know, I'll still be training out there, I'll still be doing what I usually do to a degree out there, just some level of more so flexibility and just enjoyment, because at the end of the day, that's kind of why I'm going out there. And then when I'm back into a, well, I'll still be pushing up while I'm out there, but again, back into a full send and push up. Obviously, timeline wise, probably looking about 7 to 8 months before I start prep next year for the later shows. So yeah, we've got a lot of work to do, a lot of muscles to be built, and yeah, just gonna keep on cracking on and enjoying the process. This will be my last video with Cam before I go away. However, when I come back, like I said, I'm gonna keep this as a sort of regular monthly sort of thing, because I do think it really does add to the channel, and I think you guys like it. Obviously the leg day that I did with Cam before got a lot of good feedback, so hopefully this one does well too, and I'm sure it will, because Cam's a bit of a wizard when it comes to the sort of the cinema, completely lost it, videography sort of side of things. I think I said that right. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.